Currently, I am in the United States of America. Right behind this rock is another country. That house is in Canada. Did you know that there's a town whose main street lies directly on the US-Canadian border? Meaning this car straight in front of me is driving in the United States of America, but this car is technically driving in Canada. Actually, they are technically driving in two countries at once. Welcome to Derby Line, Vermont. Well, technically, these houses in front of me are Derby Line, Vermont. I am standing in Stanstead, Quebec, in Canada, because everything north of the yellow line on this road, Rue Canusa, is Canada, while everything south is the United States. There's also a handful of buildings which are technically in both countries, like the one directly in front of me. How exactly does this work? Why was the border drawn in such a strange way? And why is the sidewalk only on the Canadian side? Well, today I'm gonna be chatting with some locals from both sides of the border to see what life is like for the 2,800 Canadians, as well as 700 Americans who live in this fascinating town. And before you ask, yes, it is technically illegal for me to cross this median without reporting to customs. And Border Patrol pretty much has a camera on every single signpost, so I'm not gonna mess with them. And I just got stopped by the Border Patrol saying that it is highly illegal to cross the yellow line. And I was like, oh, don't worry, I did not cross the yellow line. I got close, but I made sure I did not cross it. So they do not mess around here. Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom, Vermont. I'm currently in Newport, which is around 7 miles southwest of the border in Derby Line. But before we get into why that strange border exists, let's do a little bit of leaf peeping. In front of me is the beautiful Lake Memphremagog, one of around 800 lakes in the state of Vermont. And not only are the mountains behind it absolutely stunning, the fall colors are in full bloom. But don't be deceived, because yes, today, the day I'm filming, is October the 27th. It should be fall. It is currently 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, in a few minutes, I'm gonna be meeting up with a local named Rick who lives literally right on the border in Derby Line. He's gonna show me around his village, introduce me to some of his Canadian and American neighbors, and hopefully give you guys a little taste of what life is like in this very peculiar part of the country. But before we do that, how about we take a quick walk through charming, historic Newport, founded back in 1793. The population of this city is around 4,500 residents, but Newport is actually the only city in this very rural region of Vermont known as the Northeast Kingdom, and thus it's where most of the residents of Derby Line do their shopping. Now, I'm not sure if this town is just so empty because of the cold or because it's a Sunday morning at around 8 a.m. and maybe people will come out a little later in the day, but over here on the right is the Goodrich Memorial Library. Wow, what a stunning old building. And up here on the left, I'm not sure what that building is, but that right there is the county courthouse for Orleans County, Vermont. Oh wow, what's that building back up there? Now, this county courthouse was built back in 1858, but the county itself was organized in 1799, back when one of its village's borders looked slightly different. Now, Derby Line is in the very northern portion of Vermont. I'm only around 90 miles southeast of Montreal. There are technically two communities in the village of Derby Line. There is the actual village of Derby Line on the right, which has two border crossings. And then around 2 miles west of the main village of Derby Line, we have Beebe Plain, which is also part of Derby Line. And the interesting thing about Beebe Plain is Main Street, Canusa Avenue, is actually split down the middle in both the US and Canada. That is the borderline, and it cuts right down Main Street. The reason the border goes straight through town is because it was surveyed incorrectly back in 1771 when it was originally drawn due to difficulty navigating this very mountainous, very rugged terrain. This is a very remote part of the country, even by today's standards. I was on Interstate 91, which is a main highway in the US, And for the last 30 minutes of driving or so, I saw maybe 2 cars. There's a lot of fresh roadkill on the road. Now, local legends claim that the reason for the surveying blunder was because the surveyors were drunk at the time, but regardless of the reason, when the 45th parallel was officially designated as the border back in 1783, it wasn't accurate, and in some places, it deviated by more than a mile. So when the state of Vermont was welcomed into the Union in 1791, and the town of Derbyline officially incorporated that same year, it technically was only in Vermont. Fast forward some 50 years to when the technology was a little better, and the Webster-Ashburton Treaty of 1842 confirmed the surveying blunder, drawing a new border, splitting the town in 2. But as you can tell by this idyllic playground to my left, we have now entered the village limits of Derbyline, Vermont. Over here on my left is Border Patrol for Canadians entering the US. Yeah, that car literally is from Canada. They just entered. But how about I park and tell you guys a little bit about how this funky border works in practice. Bienvenue aux États-Unis and welcome to the United States. Yes, this is the border crossing that Canadians have to go through in order to enter Derbyline. Right next to it is the Village Hall, built back in 1887. And that car is not going into Canada, as you can see by these orange cones. Everything on that side of the orange cones is technically Canada. The sign says Canada straight ahead. I wonder how it works for these houses right there. I don't know if this one is, but that red building down there is definitely in both Canada as well as the US. Now, the original border station was actually built in this area back in 1909. The current building was built in the 1930s. But there are actually quite a few roads in town where different residents of Derbyline, as well as the Canadian side of the border, could cross the border freely. And in fact, one of them is directly up here. This is the Haskell Free Library in Opera House. It was built back in 1904, intentionally on the border to cement the friendly relationships between these two towns. And it provides a library as well as an opera house for both towns. It's one of the only places in the world where you can cross a border without having to go through customs. But if you're wondering who the 692 people who actually live in the town of Derbyline, the median age here is 38.3 years. 28% of the population is under the age of 18, which means there's actually quite a few kids. 29% is over the age of 65. 43% are male. 57% are female. 96.8% is white. Vermont is the whitest state. 1% is Hispanic or Latino. And 2.2% of the population is 2 or more races. As you can see, the sign is in both French and English. As in Quebec, the main language is French. It says, "Stop, do not cross. It is illegal to enter Canada from here. You will be arrested and maybe returned to the US." That was a little bit of a creepy sound of that can. Yeah, it says, "Do not enter. You may not enter the United States on this street. Violations are subject to a $5,000 fine." So I heard before 2009, these barriers actually had not been up yet, and people in both towns could cross quite freely. But yeah, this house right here, if those rocks are the border, this house is technically in both Canada and the US. Unfortunately, the library section of the house is closed on Sundays and Mondays, but the Opera House portion is having a show later today. And one of the organizers of the show actually invited me to come see it with actors from both sides of the border. The library's collection, as well as the opera stage, are both in Canada, but then the main entrance, as well as most of the seats, are in the US. There technically is an emergency exit on the Canadian side of the border, but I'm pretty sure all of these rocks symbolize the border. And crossing those rocks, yeah, that literally says, "Do not cross," right by all of those rocks. But as there is no official entrance on the Canadian side of the building, Canadians are allowed to enter through the main building without reporting to customs, but they have to follow that very specific route with the caution tape right there. I still cannot get over how weird this border is. So all of these houses are the US of A, and then this house directly in front of me, as well as that church, that is Canada. These people literally cannot even walk through their backyard. Like, you can literally wave to your neighbors up over there. You could even probably shout out to them. But if you cross these rocks you will be fined $5,000 and could even be arrested. But I'm sure Rick is gonna go into a lot more detail about this as he gives us a tour of his town, as well as neighboring Stanstead, Quebec, literally where those recycling bins are. And he just messaged me that he's now ready, so let's head over to his house, literally on the Canadian border. How you doing, Rick?
Awesome.
Good to meet you, man. Ready to show me around the only town that straddles the border, right?
Yep. We're literally on the border right now. That tree line right there, that is all Canada.
Oh,
right
wow.
there. So I do live pretty close to the Canadian border.
And because Derby Line is so close to Canada, my phone actually thought I was in Canada. So to be able to message Rick or look up info about the place, I actually needed a Canadian phone plan, which I got with Olafly, today's sponsor. Olafly is a global eSIM provider that offers prepaid data plans for travelers in over 200 destinations, most of which have unlimited data, so you never need to worry about hitting costs or finding a physical SIM. Plus, if you have one of the newer iPhones, physical SIMs don't even work. So if you're one of the 38% of Americans who plan on traveling internationally before the end of this year, head over to olafly.com or click the first link in the description, search for your destination, pick your plan, and then scan the QR code to be instantly connected. Plus, use my promo code from here to there to save 5% off your first plan. But while I explained how self-service in this fascinating border town works, I'll let Rick explain how life works. So where are we headed first, Rick?
We're gonna head over to Circle K actually in Derby Line because so many people from Canada come down for cheaper gas.
And so how many friends do you have from the Stanstead Quebec side of the border?
Not a whole lot, but there's a lot of people that live here that are originally from Canada that just live down here now.
So there's a lot of dual citizens.
Absolutely. My dad is one of them.
No, yeah, it seems fascinating. Like I went up to the Haskell Library and you just see the rocks and that's like, okay, don't cross this line. That's...
Oh, absolutely. And I'll show you some other places.
What happens if you do just cross one of those?
Oh, you'll get stopped so quick, it's not even funny.
I didn't see anyone.
They'll come out of nowhere.
So there's cameras and stuff right
there
there.
are cameras, and if they come up over the hill and they go past, they'll get stopped within probably 600 feet. They'll be stopped.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is going to be a fascinating town.
Well, yeah, and it's about protecting, your borders.
Yeah.
But also understanding there's no wall here too. The Border Patrol does a wonderful job around here, and they're part of our community.
Yeah.
So let's embrace that.
So Rick, you said a friend from the Canadian side of the border is going to be here at 10 to do a little interview?
Absolutely.
And now what's the plan?
We're going to head over to Beebe and Eagle Point.
I thought it was Beebe Plain, but it's Beebe Plain, and that's where the actual border goes down the main street of the town.
Yeah, for that you have to go through the Canadian border.
Okay, so we're going to go into Canada.
Do you have your information?
I have my passport card, yeah.
Okay, perfect. We'll head over, we'll do that.
Okay, so as soon as I get to Vermont, first thing we're doing is going to Canada. So I guess how exactly does this border work?
9/11's definitely changed this area. There used to be flower pots there. It's just sad that what we saw from the past, where we embraced our neighbors, now we're putting up granite blocks where you were at the Haskell Library.
I've heard also that before the community used to be much better integrated with both sides of the border, and now it's a bit more socially isolated. Is that true?
It is. There's a lot of different aspects that have changed it. Small dairy farms pulling out. They used to have like a little general store here.
So you grew up in Derby Line?
I grew up in Newport Center. It's not that far away. I grew up on a dairy farm. I love it here. The neighbors always help you out. Just getting colder. If your snowblower breaks, you have 2 or 3 neighbors trying to help you out to make sure it gets going.
And that's kind of indicative of just Vermont in general. Like
absolutely
everywhere, right?
friendly.
Yeah. It's so hilly. Wow.
It is.
No wonder the border was incorrectly drawn way
absolutely.
back when. Yeah.
And there's houses that you can see that have a line drawn up through, and half of the house is in Canada and half of it is in Vermont.
So it is legal then to cross as long as you exit through the same side?
Well, yeah, when you have a house like that, they don't pay attention to that part. Your kitchen could be in Canada and you're sitting watching TV in the United States, so it's kind of weird. We're not going to go over to Canada right off. I want to show you Eagle Point in that area.
So this is Beebe Plain?
Yeah, Beebe Plain.
So how often do you normally cross the border?
I only cross maybe a couple times a year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't go up to Canada a whole lot because we have so much in the United States to do.
So if you want like a city experience, do you go to Boston, or Montreal's a lot closer, right?
It is, but We love the cleanliness of, this is the Canadian border right here, which we'll come back through.
So we're going to cross this border crossing.
Yep, because this is where Canusa Avenue is right down there.
Oh, so that's lit. Oh, okay, that's the street. That's the main street right there.
Yep, but I'm going to take you through. So this is Beebe right here.
Yeah.
We're just going to go over to Eagle Point because it's really beautiful.
So you said you're a landscape photographer?
I do a landscape photographer. My full-time job is for Northeast Kingdom Learning Services, which is an adult learning center here. Rural areas, it's a challenge to get students. We have 52 towns that we support, and we have 5 different locations. One in Norton, which is even further north. So it's
further north than Derby Line.
Well, it's more desolate, I should say. It's not as much going on over there. So this right here is all the Canadian border.
So those trees are the Canadian border.
That's how you Canadian border. Distinguish. And when we get down here, you'll see how close it really gets to houses. And we'll slow down a little bit because you'll see some granite blocks again where somebody has tried to cross in one of my friend's yards.
So they have cameras set up in all these trees?
They do.
Oh,
they monitor it, and they're really good about making sure that everybody is following the law. So as we come up over these tree lines right here.
Wow, that is so close.
Yep. And so one of my friends owns an electric company right here that we're coming up.
So this
Al's
building
Electric,
right
and they'll see some fence right there, and that's the Canadian border.
Oh, that's way close. So those houses across it are in Canada?
Those houses are in Canada.
What about when deer cross the border?
We talk about that. It's the ongoing joke. Put money on it. There's a lot of wildlife that go through.
There's moose up here too, right?
What's that?
There's moose up here too, right?
There is moose up here. But again, this border kind of goes that way. This is called Eagle Point National Preserve. Walking trails. A lot of bird watchers come through here.
Is that mountain up there Jay's Peak?
That is Jay Peak.
Okay. And so even if you were to hike over, there's like a border patrol over there on the mountain?
So how it works is I used to be the executive director for the Northern Star here, which was a cruise boat. As long as the boat never touched land, you could travel up to Canada. You could go all the way to Magog, this is a 26-mile long lake. You could travel
so this is the lake right here?
This is the lake. This is Lake Memphremagog. Magog.
Oh, it's the same one in Newport?
Yep.
Oh, Lee. Yep. Okay. I was there earlier,
If you look at that right there, that is Owl's Head ski area.
In Canada?
In Canada.
So do a lot of people who live in the U.S. work in Canada and vice versa?
Not hardly anybody works in Canada. Most of them come down here.
But so there's a lot of Canadians who work in the U.S. side?
Yes. I don't know how much more that they can make, but I have friends that come down here. This is Lake Memphremagog. During the winter, a lot of trucks will park their vehicles right on the water right here and fish right here.
You're just on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Rural living at its finest.
It is.
So have you ever lived in a city, I guess?
I have. I lived in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a big change. Do you know any Americans who cross the border for healthcare?
There is quite a few people that do. Mostly it's dental. We can talk with Amy about that.
Okay.
Because she has 2 children.
What's it like for a kid growing up here?
There's not much for kids to do. You know, my dad always said growing up on the farm, you need to get out there. So I ended up going down to Orlando, but this is my home. You'll go down the road and people will wave to you, and there's not another place like it. So this right here,
that's the border?
That's the border, and they have cameras all over the place.
Wait, so that sign right there is the border?
If you go up where those trees are, tree line, there'll be granite blocks there, and they monitor all of this. In the Holland, which is not that far from where you probably came off 91, right?
Yeah.
And so if you took a right up there, they have the snowmobile trail. One side of the trail is United States, and the other side, there's no fence, there's no nothing. It's just 2 snowmobile trails going 2 different places, but you can't cross.
I noticed as soon as I got to Derby Line, my phone service stopped working. So the town is considered part of Canada for phone service.
So when I visited from Orlando, I'm on my phone going through Derby Line. The following month, I get a $250 phone bill. The tower jumped into Canada, charged off the Canadian international rates.
Yeah. So it goes back and forth depending on where you are.
It gets whatever bandwidth.
So do you have to have both a Canadian and U.S. plan?
It's tricky. The local AT&T store knows, so that when we call, they can take the fees off automatically. We used to have to call in every month
But up here is the actual border, huh? And so you said you've got into trouble a few times for just peeking over just to get a shot?
Yeah, this is the international border right here.
Oh, this is it right here. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I go behind that post, I'm breaking the law.
You're breaching in this post right here. They have these granite posts. This is a treaty of Washington. Each of these granite stones, you can see them all the way through, and that is the border.
Yeah. So before 9/11, it was fine to cross for the most part?
No. I mean, we've always known that this was the border, so we didn't cross it. But it was a lot really different. Then when COVID hit, that was another devastation for the area.
Yeah.
A lot of families couldn't come down through here that used to come down here.
Mm-hmm. So I'd imagine there's a lot of Canadians with family here and vice versa?
Absolutely.
Okay. The border was completely closed for how long?
A long time. So what they used to do is go to the library.
Oh, and you could still go to the library.
You could still go to the library, and people would sit down. They had weddings there. They just couldn't cross the border.
So that
you
was
could
the
see the wedding.
place.
Yeah, that was a social place.
Fall time it's a little earlier here, huh? Like when I left Boston yesterday, it was still full, it was peak fall. Now it's winter up here already.
Yep.
I guess speaking of winter, it gets really cold. What's the coldest you've experienced?
20 to 30 below zero. That is without wind chill. But it doesn't stay for that long. Global warming is happening.
So there's been less snow in recent years up here.
There has. Like snowmobiling, ice fishermen.
So is most of the economy tourism related?
It is. Mostly outdoor recreation. But snowmobiling is getting shorter and shorter. We didn't have a Walmart. Probably been 10 years now. We used to have to drive an hour to get
St.
something.
Johnbury? Or?
No, Littleton, New Hampshire.
Oh, wow. That's okay. Was there anything on the Canadian side that's close, like in Magog? Or?
Sherbrooke would be 45 minutes. It's just the hassle of going through the Canadian border again.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to do now, though, in Beebe Plain. So you looking at the map right here, you can see the border right next to us. And then up there, that's Beebe Plain, right?
Yep.
So when we cross the border, I should not film, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Definitely not film.
So we are about to cross the border. I will film again once we're on the other side.
We're in Canada now.
Welcome to, is this Beebe Plain, Canada now?
This is Stanstead.
Oh, Stanstead, Canada. So different.
It is very different.
Cars drive on the same side of the road.
They do.
Arretto, that is very different.
Yep.
That's the crossing of the border. And this is Canusa Avenue, so we are technically in the U.S. on this side.
Correct.
But those cars are in Canada.
That is correct.
Wow. So there's only a sidewalk on the Canadian side.
Yep. So you can see the Harris signs right here.
And then there'll be Canadian Prime Minister signs.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That is hilarious.
Yep.
So all of these people that live in these homes have to cross the border still to go to their home? So in effect, it's basically they live in Canada even though they live in the U.S. And was it that way before 9/11 too? That
it has. Oh, it's always been that way. It was just a little easier to get through. I'm going to see if I can get with my friend.
Okay. And so she's in Canada right now?
She is in Canada right now.
Okay, perfect.
So we might do the story in Canada.
Yeah. My cell provider needs to switch to the Canadian provider, Rogers.
Oh, the other thing you got to make sure is the speed.
Oh,
because
kilometers, right?
Exactly. They're
much more stingy about it.
They are.
Oh, so 50, that's kilometers, not miles an hour.
Yep, and that's where the mix-ups when they come to America, because it's 50 miles an hour, so they're going 35 miles an hour.
What other differences are there between the two sides of the border that you know?
Not a whole lot. We get along very well. The issue being they're both border towns, and it's hard because people think it's kind of the end of the line, and I think it's just the beginning.
So Rick's friend is actually in Derby Line at that same Circle K that appears to be the meetup point now for most people. So this road, it no longer straddles the border. It's fully in Canada.
No, and this is the other cool thing. There's a factory that is both in the United States and Canada.
Really?
This is Tivoli.
So
they have American.
The border's the river right here?
Yep.
Rue Canusa. Who paves the street?
Wow, that was a trick question, wasn't it? I don't know.
Does the U.S. pave their side?
I don't. Does the state of Vermont plow one side, and does Canada plow the other?
And so we're back in the Derby Line section of Stanstead, Quebec now. So we have to cross the border again.
We have to cross the border again.
That might be the quickest. Literally, we've been here for 4 minutes, I believe.
Yep.
I know there's the myth that the surveyors were drunk when they drew the border, but I think it's very hard to get a perfect line here. Eastern town. Oh, it's in English.
Yeah.
Oh, because this used to be Vermont when it was built?
This right here used to be a really great restaurant, and this was where the border used to be. Now they have it over here.
So they moved it up.
Yep.
And crossing the border back into the U.S. was probably the quickest I have ever gone through Border Patrol. It was just like, oh, I just wanted to show up Canusa Avenue. And he's like, okay, have a good day. Oh, that's your friend right there.
That is my friend right here.
You said the border crossing is closed at 8 p.m.
Yes.
So then you have to go to,
you have to go on the interstate. Yep. Oh. Amy, we were just in Stanstead. I wanted to show him Canusa Avenue, and I was trying to get a hold of you over there, but my phone didn't work.
Either.
Your phone doesn't work here?
No, my phone. So I have an American phone.
Okay. Hey, Amy, how you doing?
It's hard on the border here with international service.
Yeah.
He found that out, Rogers.
Literally as soon as I got here, I was like, oh, I have to turn roaming on.
He just has some cool questions.
Yeah.
Okay. I got some answers.
So, Amy, you are a school teacher in Derby Line, but you live in Stanstead, Quebec.
In Stanstead, yes.
So you cross the border every day? Basically.
Every day, twice a day. So I moved here in 2010 to be with my husband. So he's Canadian, so I'm American by birth.
Oh, so I literally was going to ask you, do you know any Canadians who have married Americans?
Yeah, and it has changed a whole lot over the past 14 years since I've been crossing, but I've always worked in the U.S. since I've lived there. I started as a temporary resident, but I wasn't allowed to work there. I wasn't allowed to vote there. I wasn't allowed to do anything there. So when I got my degree and I got my education and I figured out what I wanted to do and be a teacher, I figured out working up there wasn't as great as it was supposed to be. So I stayed working down here.
So incomes are better in the Vermont side?
They're about par, but the benefits I get being an American, like I get my health care down here, I get all my prescriptions down here, I get all the things I need for my family. Like I have a hospital like 10 minutes away from my house because it's in Newport. The closest hospital in Canada is a half an hour to an hour away.
Crossing the border so often, does all the Border Patrol already know you and just kind of let you through?
I wish. Most of them do know me and they know my story. During COVID, my permanent resident card, so what would be the green card in the US, expired because it needed a photo to get renewed, and you wouldn't do photos or anything like that during COVID. So they're like, oh, well, we know you're okay. We know who you are. When the new people come in, they're like, oh, what is this? They have to hear my whole story.
So during COVID, were you allowed to cross the border because you were American? Okay.
Because I had a job, but I couldn't go for non-discretionary reasons. So if it wasn't work, I wasn't allowed.
Okay.
So if my kids had doctor's appointments, they would bound me at the line. So I'd have to do a 14-day quarantine on that side, and I wouldn't be allowed to leave my house in Canada except to go to work.
Wow. Hey, that's
COVID was a little rough.
Yeah, that's no. He was telling me. Yeah.
And we had a pass that we had to get. Right. We had to pre-register before crossing the border, and if your information was wrong, they would hold you there for however many hours until they would let you go.
Are you dual citizen now?
I'm not. I'm a permanent resident, but all my kids are dual.
So do you know anyone else who lives in Canada and works in the U.S.? Is it quite common?
It's actually pretty common. I know people who work at the hospital. My husband's cousin's wife is a dual citizen. Her parents live here in the U.S., so she works down in St. J.
St. Johnsbury?
Yeah.
That's quite far. That's an hour, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You go where the jobs are and where you want to be employed. It's no different because I know so many people in town that work in Sherbrooke, and that's 45 minutes away. And it's hit or miss, right? This morning it took no time at all, but then there's other mornings where it could take years.
Right.
Me and my husband actually got married at the Haskell Library.
Oh,
so that's the library that's on both
we're going to go there later, yeah.
We had family on his side that couldn't cross into the U.S., and I had family on my side that couldn't cross into Canada.
So it's always just been a
gathering point.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends in the U.S. I have a few friends in Canada, not a whole lot, only because I don't work up there. My grocery shopping I do down here. I would say most of my friends are down on this side.
Do you know Americans who go to Canada for healthcare or vice versa?
So when my grandparents actually first come to Stanstead before I even met my husband, so they were coming here for cheaper medicine for their diabetes. It was $25 a visit. Dr. Bouchard just passed away now. Everybody. Yeah. I think half the people were born with Dr. Bouchard. But he used to prescribe medicine for my grandparents because it was I think a third of the cost. But they got wise to it over the years, and so now I don't see anybody in the U.S. going to Canada. We would have to pay out of pocket. So the cost up there would be so much more because I'm not enrolled in any of their programs.
So your kids don't have whatever the healthcare plan is in Canada?
Well, so they do, in case there's ever an emergency and we're ever up there. But we don't utilize them or use them.
Okay.
I remember during COVID, my son I thought his appendix was going to burst. He was crying and screaming. So I rushed him down here. US is yes, please go to the hospital. You go do your thing. Found out he was constipated. Not such a big deal, but Healthcare Canada pulled me in at the border and said, well, you're not allowed to go to the U.S. for healthcare. And I'm like, well, no, I am because I'm insured. And they're like, well, no, you're not. And I'm like, well, no, yes, I am. Here's my insurance. Here's my rights. They're like, your kids are Canadian, and so you need to bring them to the doctors in Canada. I'm like, you guys don't have enough doctors. I don't know anyone who has a primary care physician. He goes, well, it's free. You don't have to pay for it. I'm like, well, you get what you pay for. And it's not good care because you could be sitting in the ER waiting room or whatever in Canada for 16 hours before you're even seen. And it's not Canada's fault. They train their doctors and they come down here, and we get the best of Canada because they can come down here and make as much money as they want. I know of stories of people who were on the waiting list for a heart transplant and they've died.
So even like emergency procedures, oh wow.
Or they're on a wait list.
My dentist comes down from Montreal.
Because they can make a lot more money here.
Yeah.
The cost of living on the Canadian side is quite a bit cheaper than the Vermont side.
I would say it's higher. A gallon of milk in Canada is probably like $12 a gallon.
That's why I said you see so many people fueling up right here, but you'll also see people buying 5 gallons of milk and they'll go up and freeze it in Canada.
A loaf of bread is like $6. Dozen eggs is like $8. Hence why I do my groceries down here.
So your life is really intertwined with the
absolutely. That blue building and those all used to be the hardware store. They had the hairdressing salon, the pharmacy, and they've all been condemned. Some company had bought them so that they could build a gas station there, but there was too much work because you would have to pass the gas station, go through the customs, and then loop back around to go there. And so that project got denied, and so now they're just condemned buildings.
So the border didn't let the owner build a gas station at that point?
Correct.
Because it's on the border. It's literally straddling the border.
So now the government owns those buildings.
Because there's probably nothing else that can be done with them.
Church is in session and there are 4, 6, 8 people. Is this the only church in town or are there a few?
There's another one over here, Catholic church.
And is this the school playground? Or is
No, this is the park playground.
Just a big field, wow.
Yeah.
Where would the school be that Amy works at?
Right down on Elm Street, and we can come when we're coming back through. I'll take you over there.
And there's quite a few kids in town, right?
There's a lot of kids. Being on the border, it's very safe. You have the border patrol and people looking out.
Border Motel. Looks a little far from the border, though.
Yeah, and it's different.
So your friend's elk farm is just right up here?
Right here. So this is the cow palace. So they got the males out there. They're all relaxing. If you want to go to a really great, affordable restaurant, it's called the Cow Palace Restaurant.
And do they have elk on the menu?
They do have elk, and they also have buffalo.
On the farm, there's buffalo here.
Yeah, but you can kind of see. I don't know if you can zoom in that far.
Yeah, you see the little antlers. Yeah.
Are a lot of the people in Derby Line and Derby, have they been here their whole lives?
Yes.
So you know people from childhood that are still here?
Yes. Some are police officers. Some have their own businesses. So this is my uncle's place right here. It's Hool Farm Equipment, so he goes up to Canada just about every day to pick up farm machinery. If you want to talk about a weird boundary, over there on the other side of the road is Newport, and then it weaves around and it's Derby, a little bit of Derby, and then it goes back to Newport.
So this Walmart.
So this is a super Walmart, but there's also other great general stores there. So this right here is Shattuck Hill. So you're gonna have Jay Peak right in front of you, but we're gonna turn in here real quick, and they just redid this. This is all purchased by Derby.
Holy, okay, yeah, that is a stellar view.
And that's Lake Memphremagog.
That is Lake Memphremagog. Just wanted to show you this real quick of how beautiful this is.
Yeah, no, this is.
I love your expression because that's when I take friends that have never been.
Yeah.
I try to get them around here. The other place that I recommend is Lake Willoughby because your mouth will drop.
Lake Willoughby.
Like, yeah.
So here, the scenic vista overlooking Lake Memphremagog is mentioned in text since the initial settlement of the area. It was called Beautiful Waters. If you guys want to read this entire thing, you can pause it and read it. Oh, but these are all the different. Okay.
Yep.
So Eagle Point is where we were, right over there.
Yep.
Right there is Eagle Point.
See that little white building? Can you zoom in on that island?
Oh, yeah.
That Province Island, that's kind of where the border goes right through that island and up over those hills.
So there's buildings on that island?
There's buildings on that island.
And half are in Canada, half are in the U.S.?
There's probably a quarter in the United States and the rest is in Canada.
And so there's still Border Patrol on that island? Or
There is not. You have to do a check-in boat where you pull in to customs over there. How it works, as long as you don't touch any land, you could swim in the lake and you're fine.
So you could swim to Canada and then back?
Yes, and they have that. We have a cold water swim during the winter that they cut. If you wanted to talk about something unique, sometimes 10 below zero, and they're out there swimming in the lake. They cut a hole in there and it's ice.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're swimming in the water.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Different way of life up here.
So now we're going to head over to Coventry Falls alpacas.
Okay. Yeah, this is gorgeous. Jay Peak, how long did that take, or would that take to hike up it?
Oh, a while, a couple hours. It's got the largest amount of snow in New England. A lot of people come up here for the
skiing.
Yeah, I mean, they lost it all right now because we had 80 degrees, but they had a foot of snow.
It was 80 degrees this week.
Yeah.
And now it's below freezing the same week.
Yeah. Welcome to Vermont. This is North Country Hospital.
And this is where Amy said she goes for her all her checkups and all that stuff.
And how important North Country Hospital is to this community.
Oh yeah, it's like a full-size hospital.
It is a full-size hospital. And this is called the Hobbit House. If you look at the door here.
Is it a tourist attraction or is it just
No, it's a friend of mine's house. This is Heather McCowan.
Okay.
She's an amazing artist. When you walk in, all the doors around and everything, and it feels like you're in the Hobbit.
So this is the
high school.
Okay.
Yeah, this is where I graduated from high school.
Oh, really? And what was your class?
How many in my class?
Yeah, how many in your class?
We had the largest class. I think it was 270
that's a normal-sized high school almost.
Yeah. This is the Prouty Beach campground right here.
Oh, so that's a campground?
Yep, there's a campground that overlooks the lake.
Magog's right there. Wow, yeah.
The East Side Restaurant also has a lot of Canadian customers. They have to go into Newport and do a check-in at the marina, and then they can take their boats.
Oh, because they come by boat. Oh, okay.
And then they're touching land.
So there's a lot more border crossings in this part of the country than just the 3 land ones.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, look at this bridge we're going under. Is this a truss bridge?
Yeah, it's just for the railroad.
Is the population shrinking in this part of the country, or is it pretty steady?
So that's funny. In Newport, St. Johnsbury, you're seeing populations decrease, but you're seeing them increase in more rural areas.
Okay.
People want to get out of the city. They want land.
I heard during the whole work from home era, a lot of people moved from Boston, New York. Is that true?
It is very true. I have some friends right up on top of the hill that moved from New Jersey. Still here now.
Work from home.
Working from home.
Wow, that's a good gig, huh?
Yeah. I wish the pay was better around here, but I always say that this area is like a big puzzle, and once you start putting the pieces together, amazing things can happen. So this is my cousin's place right here. It's a trucking company. This equipment comes out of Canada.
Oh, that's a cool little church right there.
Yep.
If anything, it would be cool if the border went right down this line.
Right? This is where I want you to get wow, because we're going to come up over this hill, and then when you come down, you'll understand it.
So the alpaca farm is the hidden gem of this Northeast Kingdom.
Absolutely. So this is Coventry Falls alpacas, and they're looking like they're feeding the camels right now.
There's camels here too?
Yeah, they have 2 Siberian camels.
And there's a waterfall down there too?
There is a waterfall down there too. And she is right there. She's a hugger.
Okay. And this is Coventry Falls. Or is this their house?
This is their house.
Oh, this is their house. Okay.
Yep. Come on.
Hey, how you doing? Mary, right?
How are you? Yes, I am.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Bingo.
You want to see the fireplace that my husband built?
Gathered from the stone from down below.
Oh, from the waterfall.
Yeah.
Beautiful home.
I love all the skylights and yeah, this room here, wow. Oh, there's the alpacas right there.
Yep.
They're so cute. How many alpacas do you have, Mary?
78.
78, wow. Do they all have names?
Yes, I do.
And do you remember each one of their names?
Absolutely.
What's the first one closest to us? What's their name?
Her name is Aubrey. Hi, Doppler. Hi, baby girl.
I think it's my first time seeing alpacas in person.
So the little black one with his tail up is her little boy.
Oh.
And here comes Cinnabon.
Cinnabon.
She's only got sight in one eye. She's 18 going on 19.
And if you look at how short the grass is.
That's all from just them eating the grass?
Yeah.
Yes, because they're environmentally, so they don't pull it. They cut it. Probably one of the most environmentally friendly
Yeah, they have
animals.
soft padded feet. They all use a community poop piles. That's Hildegard.
Hildegard. Do they always guard the hill?
Oh, absolutely.
They're all curious, huh?
Come here, baby. Here's grass,
buddy.
grass. Come here.
Hey, buddy.
He says, Mom.
So how often do you come here, Rick?
This is literally the hidden gem.
Hi, baby.
This thing is massive. This thing is so big. Hey, buddy.
Never thought you were going to be
These things are cute. Oh, okay.
They think they're baby alpacas, so we don't tell them any different.
And just after spending 30 minutes outside, I am very cold. My hand has the beginnings of frostbite feeling in them.
I've got water right here for you.
Oh, I got one too. Thank you, though. Wow, you came so prepared. Thank you.
I do.
Wait, so is that a two-way road right there that we just drove down?
Yeah. This is the Orne-covered bridge. It is in Irisburg, but it's really weird because it's also Coventry's on this side.
Wow. And that is a two-way bridge as well.
That is...
So this red barn is Amish?
Yep. This whole property is
whole
Amish.
thing,
You can
okay.
see the Amish
Oh, yeah.
buggies and everything.
Wow. It's a lumber yard, too.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
And so do the Amish integrate quite well with the community, or is it...
They keep to themselves, but there is a lot of them moving in. So this is where I grew up. This was all my dad's land. That was his horse farm right
on the
there.
left? So this whole
Yep.
thing on both sides of the road?
Yep. And then this was also a horse farm. It used to be dairy, but this is where I grew up.
Is the house still here that you grew up in? That same
the
house?
That's the
Okay.
same house. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So we're going to go right up there.
So this is that Catholic church I saw at the very beginning of this video in Newport. St. Mary's Catholic Church. It's a big one. Oh, the fog's coming in now.
Yeah. It's actually not fog, it's snow.
Really?
Yeah.
It's going to snow today.
It'll snow today.
It is October the 27th, and it is going to snow in Newport, Vermont.
This past fall, one of the craziest things, the turkey landed on my window and caved in my whole window of my truck.
And that was just right around here.
Yeah, it was right on the highway right here.
On the highway, there was a turkey.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. On the interstate.
Yeah, there's a sign that says the 45th parallel. So
Or are
it's
we
kinda-
going to cross the border on the interstate?
No. So this
Oh,
is...
latitude 45 midpoint.
Yep.
Oh, so isn't the border supposed to be at the 45th parallel, or is it a little higher?
It's a little higher. It's kind of a confusing, like, we have some time. I'll take you up to Holland. You can see.
Wow, that's a
kind of-
big border crossing right there.
It's a huge one. And Canada's right there. So that's a Canadian.
There it is. That's the border. That's the street we're on. And the Haskell Library is right here, right?
Yep.
Is that a little pond?
Yep. That's in Canada, actually. This house right here.
Is in Canada and the U.S.?
Yep. So you can see where the gate is and everything. So the back of that house is in Canada. Like these houses right here are in Canada.
That one's Canadian. Yeah, I saw this house
Yep.
earlier. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, those rocks are the border.
So I'm gonna...
Park as close to the border as we could park. So we are at the Haskell Free Library and Opera House because one of the organizers wants to give us a little bit of a tour. So you were saying though in the past that you've gotten in trouble for like peeking over a rock to take a photo?
Yep, my friends did that. It didn't happen this morning, but I had some friends who do a magazine here and had the same thing. They're interviewing Scott Wheeler and got in trouble for it.
So this is the Opera House? Oh, so they have separate entrances to the library and Opera
Yep.
House. And so the stage is in Canada and then the
Yep.
seating should be up here?
Yep.
Yeah, this looks like a building from 1904. Cliché. Oh, it's in French. And are you Mary?
I'm Mary.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Rick Dureshi.
Oh, yeah, I know who you are.
Okay.
It's kind of familiar. So this is the Haskell. As far as I know,
Hey.
this is the only opera house theater in the whole wide world that is like this.
I think it's the only place you can cross a border without customs, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the world. I'm American and Chris is from Canada.
Oh, so this is like a border right here.
I'm our vice chair, artistic director, and Chris is our president and chair of this company. That's what's really cool is we're half American, half Canadian. The door you came in, that's America.
I'm gonna lock the front door just to make sure
So-
that's
Okay.
closed.
That's one of the things. We have to keep the door locked. Although Canadians can come in the front door, Border Patrol and things like that, the door has to stay locked. But the sidewalk you saw, Canadians can come through there.
As long as they leave immediately, right?
And when they're done, they should go right along the sidewalk. Chris was like, are they coming from Canada? I don't think I undid the chain. There's a chain on the crosswalk.
It is really weird because we were just talking. I have a friend lives in Stanstead, and we were talking with her on how 9/11's really changed everything around here. And COVID, this library was probably the most important library. A lot of Canadian folks came down to talk with their families down here because they couldn't cross the borders.
They could talk at the border. They weren't allowed
Right.
physically in the building.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
They did come
Yep.
to the end of the street there and talk.
So this is the most famous part. We often say when you're in the audience, you're in the US, and when you're on the stage, you're in Canada, but that's not quite true, and we'll show you why.
And so the border is somewhere just in the...
Oh, it's not somewhere.
Oh, there's
it's right here.
It's right here. Okay.
So there used to be an old joke, depending where you're seating, you might have one cheek over the line. The line runs straight through the audience, so
So you just crossed the border without having to go through customs.
we. Yes. And then there's flags on each side.
All right, so I am in the United States right now. And I have officially just crossed my first border without going through customs.
That's photo op is right in the window.
Oh, okay.
See the
Oh, that's really cool.
And then they set up the flags on both sides.
Oh, and then there's the little barriers. Okay.
little chain.
This is fascinating. So then the stage is technically in both the US and...
The stage is fully in Canada. That's what's interesting when there's repairs on the building or anything.
Oh, who pays for it?
The library, I believe, is originally an American library. However, to meet the standards of both countries, and it's a very historical building, so nothing is done easily. Everything in here is so treasured.
Like what you're doing
and
right
the
now.
painted curtain, nothing is simple. So we're in a live show right now, and then Chris will put the curtain down so you can check it out.
So this is what the stage is going to look like for this play tonight or today.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is the border right here.
Yeah. So
I just
that's where-
crossed over it. Whoever sits in this chair, their feet are in Canada as they watch.
Yeah, and when you sit over here,
Oh, okay.
and everything's pretty small. That's a dressing room right there. Look how small the doors
Yeah.
are. So there are a whole bunch of these painted curtains throughout Vermont. I would say this is one of the best well-kept ones.
Is this play, is it about living on the border or?
No, this play is called The Girl on the Train. You might have heard of the book that became a movie.
Yeah.
Closer to like borderline personality disorder than
Oh, that's the
living
border.
They do
Yeah.
amazing plays.
How many people in the production are from Canada? How many are from the US?
So for this show, we have one Canadian, Sterling. It depends each show.
And how's that for you, Chris, having to cross the border every day to work here?
I don't mind it, It's definitely a unique experience for sure, and I feel like the building is half the show. You couldn't get a 400-seat opera house built on the border at this time.
It'll never happen again, no.
Yeah, never happen again.
You might want to get a view up.
There's about 250 seats down here and another 150 in the balcony.
Oh, there's 150 up there. Wow.
Yeah, it goes all the way around. And we're on top of the library. There's another line that runs through the library. So the entrance is in the United States, but all the books are in Canada.
So do you guys live in Derby and Stanstead?
I live in Stanstead, yes, just up the street.
And I live in Newport. I know it'd be more fun if I.
Newport's like the only city in the area, right?
It's
Or city,
more
yes.
dense than
Yeah.
Derby line.
I've heard from other people that this was during COVID, the only place people could really meet. Is that?
Not entirely true, no. But the people that worked here from Stanstead could still come and work here, and they would collect books and bring them to Stanstead for people to take out, and there was a book return in Stanstead so that we weren't physically crossing. And once we were allowed to do shows again, we had to have separate entrances. This fire exit here used as the Canadian entrance. They were still not leaving the Canadian property. They were entering through a Canadian door on Canada soil.
So there's an entrance right there on that side as well?
There's just a fire escape.
It's the world's nicest fire escape,
Okay.
so you want to check that out.
Yeah, no, I want to see this door. But it'd be illegal for me to exit through that door, right?
You can look out.
Into Canada.
So when they first said they'd have to use the fire escape, I was like, oh, how dangerous is that? But this is like a very solid, beautiful.
Oh, this is like, so I'm in Canada, like officially
Yes,
now.
this is super Canada. So
the border's all
last
over.
Saturday, we were getting ready for the show and we heard a giant boom and all the lights went out. And the transformer over here caught on fire due to a squirrel. We had to wait for the Canadian electric company to come and get us back online.
The electricity's from Canada. But it kind of added to the atmosphere because they were here to see this murder mystery show with the power out in this old opera house.
Then you play with-
While all that was going on, I got word that there was a bat circling backstage on the stage. So it was an interesting evening. You can see the row of rocks there.
Yeah, that's the border
Yeah.
right there.
There has been people parking a little bit too close onto this guy's property. He's in Canada. Now you can see some tourists as well.
Families will meet on either side.
Say like one family lived up here in this house, the other family lived there.
Technically, they would have to go through customs unless they wanted to stand by the rock.
Yeah,
There's
stand
no
by
other way
the
around it.
Our former director got married upstairs. My dad married them. I can show you where they got married if you want.
That's awesome.
Because upstairs in the balcony is America.
Yeah, this is a very fancy fire escape. I understand
Yeah,
what
so
you're...
it's very solid. It's like, this is a beautiful little shop. So this is Stanstead. So beautiful. It's like a whole different world. The architecture is different.
Really?
The diversity is different.
Yeah, everything's in French and English, I see.
So in Canada, they do require you to both languages. In America, they're like, too bad, English only. So it'll be a little dark here for a second. All right.
Oh, so you need to go through Canada to get back to the...
No, you can get up on the other side.
Oh, okay.
This isn't open for our show, although have you sit up here probably if you wanted to get a little footage.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Not all audience members could hear us, and we have people with different accents and dialects, but the acoustics in here, you really can't beat it.
And so how many people total are in the production?
There are 7 actors. All in all, there's probably 20 people and volunteers. It takes a lot of volunteers.
And from how far do people come to see the shows?
Oh, very, very far. Especially Mamma Mia. People were like flying and we got the news. Like people were getting sick. COVID-19, we were going to do what everyone else did, take a couple weeks off. And then the border closed. I'll never forget seeing this huge chain link fence and lock the border. I just thought, this is it. This will be the end. I grew up in this building. I started doing shows in 1997. I've met my dearest of friends here. I thought that's the end of our company. You know, things were opening, but not the border. And then Americans could cross, but Canadians couldn't cross.
And this is like what, like 2023, right?
2022. Yeah. So years, a company before was closing and one person was like, oh my God, it can't close. And I was like, been on only a couple shows. Why do you care? And he was like, we got it. And that was Chris. You know? That's why Chris is still our president and chair. A lot of us in this company, we forget which country people are from. We're like, oh yeah, wait, they're Canadian or they're American. There's obviously artwork kind of everywhere.
Yeah, just all later. Historic billboards.
So this is the upstairs. Yeah. But this is what's so cool. These walls have been signed for
over 100 years.
Yes.
Does this say 1937? Is that?
Yeah.
Wow.
The first show I did was Gypsy 1997. And Chris and I met during Rumors.
No kidding.
So this is the upstairs dressing room.
Oh, wow.
We tend to put women upstairs, gentlemen downstairs.
And
the tiny one, the saddest part of this one is they did paint over the walls at one point.
Right there, 59.
Oh, 54, yeah. Who draws all these? These are really
different people.
Different people in the show.
Wow.
Just be careful on these steps.
Oh yeah, no, this was built a long time ago, you can tell.
Yeah, and remember I told you everything's like smaller?
So this is all American side right now.
You're in Canada right now.
I'm in
right
Canada?
Here, see where the rocks are?
Oh, wow.
So now you're in America because you crossed the rocks.
Okay, so Rick, you are in Canada right now.
Isn't that crazy?
How does it feel to be in another country?
It's pretty cool.
Growing up, this was one of the men's dressing rooms. They would have like 6 guys in here.
You'd have 6 people in here.
Guys.
I can't even fit in the door.
Guys.
That's a literal door. Can you stand next to it to just show?
Yeah, that's that baby door you saw in the
my
audience.
God.
This is backstage.
Beware the bat.
The bats are not a joke.
So this is the stage. Okay. And so this is Canada right now.
Yes.
All of this is Canada.
Yes.
Okay. So it'd be illegal to leave that door.
I think the rocks are. Yeah, it would definitely be. And as much as it seems quiet, if you go out that door, it will not be quiet. So the rocks didn't used to be there. It had like a post. And one guy parked his tire like on the line. And Border Patrol came in. And they were like, who is he?
No kidding.
Yeah.
And as soon as we walk outside,
It's snow. I think it's snowing.
it is snowing. Yeah. It's literally snowing.
He's like, this is crazy.
Thank you guys.
Awesome.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, take care. Mary, you're staying for a bit?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, wait, that's cool. Just you just crossed the border. Oh, because there's the chain.
Yep.
Is he coming back?
Yep.
So you just crossed the border twice without customs.
I'm on about a dozen different cameras right now, you know, and I feel like I'm here often enough where I think they just see me and my Toyota RAV4 and know that it's just me coming, getting ready for the show. We normally have some people here visiting, and the RCMP will be parked over here, and we'll have Border Patrol parked right there, and keeping an eye on everybody. And like I said, cameras on every pole around here, so it's very secure area.
And so do cars just park all up along the street?
So the Canadians can park down this street. There's a little parking lot behind this white building here, and then the Americans will park down this street behind us, and then there's some parking all the way down around the corner on the end there. My dream would be to have a bunch of Canadian flags on these poles and a bunch of American flags on these poles, because it's such a great photo op.
Yeah,
absolutely. If you could look there and say, that is definitely Canada, and that is definitely the United States.
Would you mind, actually, because you're allowed to walk there, right?
I am, yes.
Would you mind standing between them just for a...
Well, you can, if you'd like. Why don't you stand between them?
Am I allowed to?
You're allowed to stand right where I am, but I wouldn't go...
Right, no, because then you're going to have other people here.
There's the official marker.
Could you extend like your legs like this?
Like I'm in 2 countries at the same time?
Yeah.
Classic.
Oh, it is really snowing now. Well, thank you, Chris. We'll see you later.
Okay. See you guys.
And so now we're gonna walk down to the border, the actual main border crossing. Oh, it is getting chilly. Good
Good thing I brought the jacket.
So, have you ever walked down just to this line
I haven't.
before?
No.
Oh, so this is
I
your
usually
first
just
time?
drive. You know, if you went through these lines and skipped over customs within 600 feet, we'll have you picked up.
Oh, so this person's house is technically right on the border, huh?
Yep.
So is that a big, like, apartment house? Or is
Yes.
So everyone
Yep.
in those apartments has to report to customs?
Yep.
Oh, and we can literally walk all the way up, huh? So is the border on the bridge?
Yes. Those fences right there is kind of where they'll stop.
Oh, so right here where the
So,
cars
yep, those will be closed during the night.
are. Okay, so we can't go past this fence?
We can go to the river.
Okay. Oh, bonjour, Quebec. So that's exactly where Quebec
Yep.
starts.
Yep, right there.
Wow.
And it says, this is a sign right here that says it's closed at.
Until 8 a.m.
It is starting to get very windy and very snowy, but Rivière Tomophobia, the Tomophobia River. Oh, there's a cascading waterfall, and you wouldn't know it, but somewhere over this river, the border changes from Canada into the US. Wow. What a funky, unique, peculiar border, but a beautiful town nonetheless.
You're still good.
What's up?
Oh,
What's up?
you gotta go.
So apparently the border was actually right at that fence. We got called over by the custom agents to report that we have been in Canada. And wow, what a beautiful walk on the way back to the United States. Wow, this is just stunning. And now we know where the border officially starts. This fence.
Now we gotta go check in over here.
Yeah, and welcome to Derby Line, Vermont. Reporting at customs twice on foot.
You're gonna have to put your camera down for the United States.
It is really starting to snow. We have checked in at Border Patrol on the US side of the border. And Rick, you were just telling me that this building is actually the post office right next to the Border Patrol station, right?
That is correct.
You just went there earlier today?
Yep. Yep.
What a strange town.
I am now back in my car on the Derby Line side of the border. We are going to cross the Border Patrol in Beebe Plain one more time. While half of it is considered the US by legal standards, in practice, it is all Canada. Well, I am back in Beebe Plain. That border crossing took quite a fair amount of time as the border officer was going like, wait, why are you crossing there for like 7 minutes, then you crossed again, and then what's the big deal going on? So I had to explain that the next time we went through town, it was an accident by going a little bit too far on foot, and then that cleared up the whole misunderstanding. Moral of the story, I am back in Beebe Plain on Rue Canusa, driving in the US. I'm going to pull over into this lot so I can officially be in Canada. I am not going to attempt to walk on the American side. Please let me know any other towns with fascinating histories or stories that you want me to check out. Leave a like if you enjoy Vermont, and I will see you all in around a week for my next adventure. I am now charging at the supercharger in Magog, Quebec, about 30 miles north of Derby Line. That is the beautiful Mont Orford off in the distance. And if you're wondering why so many people go to Derby Line or cross the border just to buy gas, it is because it is $1.54 per liter in Canada. There are about 4 liters per gallon, which means you're paying over $6 for a gallon of gas in Canada.